Hello, mom friends. Welcome back to our channel. Today, I wanted to do a quick follow-up to our HTV cutout video that I did. I had a lot of people request after that video the Cricut Design Space tutorial for how I made this SVG. And so I thought I would do that today. I know not everyone will use this particular football one, but I thought that it will still come in handy for you because I talk a lot about the offset feature. So whether you are trying to make an individual cutout for your own homecoming mom and garter, or you're a homecoming mom business owner that wants to make them in bulk, I think this video will have some good tips and tricks, and I even show you one of my favorite offset tricks. So let's get started. This is our SVG from Creative Fabrica that I downloaded. I'm going to go ahead. I don't need that custom, and since it's not text that I can change, I'm just going to delete it. And then we're ready to look at our SVG. So when you download things, you'll want to look at it and see how it came in. And as you can see, it came in as 3 different sections. And so what I'm going to need to do is to unite those, because if you don't unite them when you go to make it, they're going to try to cut separately, and Cricut's not going to put them on your mat right. So once I united them, I've kind of gotten the habit of naming my SVG files over on the right hand side. I found that when I keep them in large files, it really keeps me more organized. So I went ahead and named that as a football silhouette. Next, we're going to grab it, and in order to make those 3 layers, we need to offset it. So we'll go up here to the offset, and one trick I want to remember to show you is I always try to move it so that when I do the offset, the drop down menu isn't on top of my SVG. That way I can kind of see. And as you'll see, the way this one's made, in order to get that offset to work, you really have to offset it. And I just really don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to delete it. So let me show you one of my favorite little offset tricks. I know you can probably do it other ways, but this is the way I do it. Is I grab a little rectangle or square, and then I'm going to unlock it so that I can move it into whatever shape that I want it to be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in that little blank space over there in the middle. And it doesn't have to be exact. You just want to get it so that we can do our offset good. And the neat thing is you don't even have to attach it or group it. As long as you just grab both of those as I'm doing, when you go back up to the offset, now we can offset it. I don't think I want it quite that big. I'm going to offset it a little bit down, just a little bit. People always ask me the number, and really a lot of it is ballpark and different with every SVG. But I'm going to change that to white so I can kind of see it. I've got that offset. I'm going to get rid of that little bitty area by hiding on the contours. That's completely preference. You could keep it if you wanted to, and it would look nice as well. So now that we have that offset and we like it, we need to do our 3rd layer of offset. So usually I try to make my back one a little bit bigger, but again, every SVG is a little bit different. It's kind of what I like. And then I'm going to change it to a different color. This is kind of the color scheme that I just always have to know for my templates. But that is where I'm going to do. And then I'm going to delete that triangle because we don't need it anymore. So I hope that you can see how that really changes your offset. I like those straight lines on the top and bottom better. So I'm going to grab it all, and I'm going to go ahead and group this so that it will be one. And then I'm just going to rename the group to football silhouette offset. That way I know that that's all 3 layers offset and grouped together. And when I copy this into my bulk project, I'll show you, it's pretty cool that it copies right in there as well. Then these are my words that I use, and those are kind of already a preset size. I have them that way because that way I can make lots of different SVGs, and I know that I'll be able to use those. I duplicated this eagles instead of pulling it out of the group, just so I don't have to mess with the group. But next, what I'm going to try to do is resize this because I want this SVG to work with that particular size because those I already have prepped and ready to go. So I'm just going to play with it a little bit with the size. The other thing is I kind of know that I like my SVGs to be around somewhere between 3 and 3.5. Occasionally I'll make them a little bit larger. But for this particular one, the size that's important to me is that it already my words that I have, either my mascot or the football position or anything like that, will fit in there. So I think I've kind of got it the way I like it. I'm going to test it one more time by grabbing another one here in just a second. Let's see. I'm going to go over there and grab Indians. I'm right clicking and hit duplicate. The other thing I like about that is it creates something new so that it automatically becomes your top layer and you can place it on the top. That's another reason I do that instead of ungrouping and grabbing it out of the group. So yeah, I like that. I like the way it works. We can delete those two. I'm not going to need it and we'll be ready to move on. Real quick, even though I already have these, I want to show you how to create one on your own. You can just open up a text box, and one of my favorite fonts for this is actually Hello Babe. I believe it's a Cricut Access font. I like it because it stretches well, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But I'm going to grab it, and just a little trick: if you find a font you love, bookmark it over there, and then it will show up in your bookmark section, and then you can look for your fonts in the bookmark section. It's kind of like a favorites. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do Jaguars. So I'm just going to type this and hit the return key so that it will be vertical for me. And then once that's done, I'm going to go up and hit the unlock key, because that will allow me to kind of size it and stretch it the way I want. And as you can see, that Hello Babe font is kind of fun. Even when you stretch it out wide, it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to fit it in here and kind of just play with it a little bit to get it exactly how I want it. Let's see, I clicked off of it, so I'm going to have to go get it back up at the top so that I can grab it. And then once I get it the way I want it, I'm going to change it to a different color. So if you're just making an individual SVG, then you would be ready to go with all of those. I am going to put that one down there so that I will have it. And if you were making this SVG now, you could save this file and you could go ahead and make it. But what I'm going to do is instead, I'm going to copy it. And I already have a few of my other Cricut Design Space files open. This is my football offset where I keep all the ones that I've designed so that I'll have them for later. And one of the cool things you'll see is when I copied it over there, it copied that wording where I renamed it. So I really like that part. And then I'm going to go back over and I'm going to grab these words as well. I used to keep them on my football offset, but now I'm going to try to move them into one file because I'm going to create some different ones for each, like basketball or every sport. So I'm going to move just that Jaguars over so that I will have it, and then I have it all in just one file, and then my goal is to create every SVG that these would fit into, and then they will be in one file. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to close that one out, and then we will be back to just our original file. Let me save this one as well real quick so that I have that. I'm trying to do really good about not having too many windows open. So I'm going to get that one closed as well. And now we should be ready to make it. I'm going to go ahead and hide these because when we make it, I don't want it. I'm going to leave that Jaguar so that if you're making it individually, you will be able to kind of walk you through. I'll try to walk you through how to prepare that and get that ready to cut. So we're going to go ahead and make it. And as you can see here, if you're making it individually, this is your glitter cardstock section, so that you will not need to mirror. But the other three are all going to be HTV, so you would need to make sure that you mirror them. And I like to do that all at once before I start my cutting. So now if you're making this one or one cutout, you are ready to go and you could just hit continue. But what I'm going to do is I'm also going to show my homecoming business owners how to make them in bulk. In that HTV HOCO cutout video, I actually made them in groups of 9 because I was making 2 sets and I didn't want 24. But I want to show you can actually fit 12 onto one sheet. So Cricut is going to give you probably a little bit more space than you need. So as you can see, I'm going to move these over so that they're a little bit closer to each other because I think I'll be able to fit 3 more. And then I'm going to go to this other page that Cricut had put them on, and I'm going to move them over to the right-hand side because I know that that is where I will want them to be. And I go into more detail on that how to use glitter cardstock video. I'm going to move them now onto the gray page that the other ones are on. And as you can see now, they're very, very close, but they do all fit. I'm just going to do a quick check and make sure that all the lines fit, but that allows me to really utilize my cardstock. Now I'm going to move over to the white. It's going to be HTV, so I'm going to make sure that I mirror that. But I do like to save as much and put everything as close together as possible because it allows for less waste for my glitter cardstock. Because I've talked about that, I use that. I'll put a little picture up there. I put the little pieces in my drawer, and I do end up using them, especially for like those middle place pieces that go words and things like that, like this one, for example. So I'm going to move them. It takes just a second to do, but it does save your material. And I'm going to sometimes flipping it, especially if you're making the same design because it kind of mirrors each other. You can really save on some of your HTV and your material by rotating them 90 degrees and moving them a little bit closer. So then once again, I'm going to do a little check, make sure that no lines are actually touching. And then once that is all good, we can move on to the next one. And so this is our section that if when you watch that HTV cutout video, you'll see that I actually made it in 3 different colors. So what I'm going to do here, instead of going through my machine 3 different times with the 3 different colors, is I'm going to move them around on the mat. I'm going to do the same process as we did before, as kind of moving it to a 90 degree and try to save as much of my glitter HTV as possible. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the other ones down a little bit, and they're not all going to be black. Although it's all black in Design Space, I'll put a picture up so that you can see how I prepped my cutting mat. And what I did was I cut 3-inch strips of each 3 different colors: silver, red, and royal, and I place them on that cutting mat in the same spots that I'm placing them right now on Design Space. And then what that will allow me to do is it'll allow me to do all of my bulk cutouts in much less cuts on taking my cutting mat in and out of my machine. And so it's just a time saver. And for me, that's one of my least favorite things is putting material on my cutting mat and taking it out of the machines. So just for me, it's worth the time to do it that way. So again, this one is mirrored because it's HTV, but as you can see, it's all set and ready to be lined up like my cutting mat is. I'm not going to worry about the red one for this one because this is an example of how you would do it in bulk. And of course, I wouldn't go ahead and prepare those. I would just prepare the top 3 layers, and then we would add that 4th layer during homecoming season when we're ready. So, whether you're making just one cutout for your own homecoming mum or garter, or you're a homecoming business owner making them in bulk, we're ready to hit the continue button. Don't forget, I like to use the more setting for both my glitter cardstock and my glitter HTV. Once you have them all cut out and your machine has done its magic, if you haven't already, check out our HTV cutout video and I will go through exactly how to put these together. That's it for today, friends. Happy creating. We will see you soon.